Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is your personal shortcut to understanding the essential insights on a topic you care about. Today, that topic is entrepreneurship and business growth, and we've pulled together quite a stack of sources specifically for you.
Yeah, we're going to be exploring, well, pretty much everything from the very definition of what it means to be an entrepreneur, right through to the really practical stuff, like how to structure your business legally, smart marketing moves, navigating the ups and downs of growth, and even some innovative ways of delivering value, like these product service systems.
Right. Our mission today is to take all this diverse information and, boil it down into actionable and thought-provoking takeaways. Think of it as getting well-informed but efficiently. Okay, let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe something fundamental. What exactly is entrepreneurship? It seems basic, but maybe it sets the stage.
Absolutely. Our first source kind of lays this groundwork. It reminds us that entrepreneurship isn't, a single simple thing. It's more of a multifaceted process.
Yeah.
Individuals or teams identifying opportunities, creating value, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And having that broad understanding is really crucial as we delve into the more specific areas, like the strategic importance of choosing the right legal structure.
Which is a really critical early decision, isn't it? A big one. We have a couple of sources that dive into the various legal structures: sole proprietorship, partnership, LLCs, S Corp, C Corp,
Yeah.
all those acronyms. This is much more than just filling out forms, right?
No, exactly. As our sources point out, this choice is heavily influenced by four key factors. You've got the initial cost to get set up, then how much your personal assets are at risk, that's the legal liability bit, then there's how the business will be taxed, and importantly, your options for raising money later on. Each structure, it has its own pros and cons for each of these areas.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. One of the articles links this initial decision to the broader idea of economic freedom. Things like government spending, tax policies, labor market regulations. How do these sort of big picture factors play into choosing a legal structure?
Well, what's fascinating is how the overall business environment can actually nudge entrepreneurs towards certain structures. Research suggests that in economies with, say, greater freedom, certain legal forms might look more appealing. It's also interesting that while most startups, well, they stick with their initial choice, the ones that do decide to change their legal structure down the road, they actually show a higher chance of surviving.
Really?
Yeah, it suggests that adapting to the economic landscape, even structurally, is a key element of resilience.
So it's a strategic decision with real consequences for the long haul. Makes sense. And it sounds like liability, protecting your personal assets and the tax implications are really the big differentiators between options like C Corp, S Corp, and LLCs.
Precisely. That concept of limited liability, where your personal wealth is shielded from business debts, that's specifically linked in the research to higher growth rates.
Ah, okay.
Think about it. If you're not risking, well, everything you own, you might be more willing to take those calculated risks needed for expansion.
That makes total sense. Now, one of our articles brings in this concept of legal astuteness. Basically, how well a company's leadership can work with their legal advisors. That sounds like a really valuable skill, but maybe one that's often overlooked.
It really is. Legal astuteness isn't just about staying out of trouble legally. The research indicates it can actually give you a competitive edge, even boost profitability.
How so?
Well, it's about proactively using legal tools, like choosing the optimal legal entity, for instance, to strategically manage risks and create more value. Like understanding contract law really well could help you negotiate better deals with suppliers, that sort of thing.
And it really seems like getting professional advice is just crucial here. Talking to accountants, lawyers.
That's a key takeaway from the sources, definitely. The data shows that founders who seek that kind of guidance, they tend to have a clearer understanding of what their legal structure means for them, and they're ultimately more satisfied with this impact on their bottom line. It just underscores the value of expert knowledge in making these smart strategic calls early on.
Okay, so moving on from the legal side of things, let's dive into actually building the business itself. We have an article looking at how writing a business plan helps you develop entrepreneurial competences. Is this just like a theoretical exercise for students, or does it have real tangible benefits?
Well, according to the research, developing a business plan, and this is interesting, whether it's for a real startup or even a hypothetical one, it's actually a surprisingly effective way to build a whole range of entrepreneurial skills.
Like what kind of skills?
Things like general abilities, problem solving, decision making,
Hmm.
but also specific business know-how. and also cross-functional skills, like being able to gather and analyze information effectively.
So the very act of planning, it forces you to develop the skills you'll need later.
Exactly that. The study found that students who went through creating a business plan, they reported a significant increase in their perceived competence.
Mm.
But importantly, their actual skill levels were also observed to improve.
Ah, okay.
And what's interesting is whether the business idea was real or just an exercise didn't seem to make a huge difference in the skills gained. The planning process itself, especially that need to find and process information, that appears to be the really valuable part. So even a practice run can be incredibly beneficial.
Good to know. Okay, let's shift focus now to connecting with customers, which is obviously crucial for any business. We have a couple of articles exploring entrepreneurial marketing, that intersection of marketing principles and an entrepreneurial mindset. It's not just about doing traditional marketing on the smaller scale, is it?
No, not at all. One article talks about the marketing and entrepreneurial nexus,
Hmm.
which basically highlights how marketing is fundamentally about creating, communicating, and delivering value to satisfy customer needs. A key concept here is market orientation, or MO. That's like a company-wide focus on understanding and responding to customer needs, both current and future ones, and also keeping a really close eye on the competition. Companies with strong MO, they tend to be more competitive and profitable.
Right. And how does a company's overall entrepreneurial approach, its willingness to take risks, its focus on innovation, being proactive, how does that tie into this?
Well, a firm's strategic orientation really captures its underlying entrepreneurial decision-making style. Things like being willing to take calculated risks, constantly striving for innovation, proactively seeking opportunities. They all shape how a company approaches the market. And notably, innovation is often seen as a precursor to strong market orientation.
How so?
Well, if you're constantly innovating, you're more likely to create differentiated products or services that truly meet customer needs in new ways, right?
Ah, okay. So being innovative isn't just about having cool ideas. It actually helps you become more strategically focused on the customer.
Precisely. And when we talk about smaller and newer businesses, SMEs,
Hmm.
entrepreneurial marketing in SMEs is really about grabbing that initial customer interest. This often requires more creative, nimble, and resource-efficient tactics compared to what larger established companies might do.
Makes sense. Now, one of the articles delves into how new entrepreneurs actually learn these entrepreneurial marketing skills. Talks about entrepreneurial learning or EL within teams. How does that process work?
Yeah, EL and teams is a pretty dynamic process. It's where individuals and the group as a whole develop their marketing know-how together. The research identifies several different styles of learning at play. You've got collective learning, where the team shares knowledge and insights. Then there's exploratory learning, seeking out new information, new possibilities. Exploitative learning focuses more on refining and leveraging what you already know. Supportive learning is when team members actively help each other develop. And of course, there's individual learning too, where each person gains skills that then contribute back to the team.
Could you give us maybe a concrete example? How might this look in a startup team?
Oh, sure. Imagine a group of, say, student entrepreneurs working on a new product. They might have a collective learning moment, brainstorming different packaging designs together, sharing ideas, building on each other's suggestions. Then they might do some exploratory learning by reaching out to marketing pros or maybe even design students to get feedback, new perspectives. And when they take that feedback and refine their marketing materials based on it, that's more like exploitative learning, using what they've learned to improve. Even just one team member researching different online ad strategies on their own and then sharing those findings, that's individual learning feeding into the team's overall EM skills.
Got it. So it's this constant interplay between what individuals bring and what the team learns and develops together.
Exactly. Entrepreneurial learning isn't just solo or just group. It's really an interconnected process. Individual insights feed the team, and team experiences shape individuals.
Okay, let's think about what happens as a business matures, starts to grow. We have a couple articles that touch on business growth and transition. One specifically looks at family-owned entrepreneurial firms trying to scale from small to large. What are some of the unique factors at play there?
Yeah, the research focusing on Italian manufacturing family firms, it revealed some really interesting dynamics. They found what's called an inverted U-shaped relationship between the level of family ownership and the likelihood of the business successfully transitioning to a larger size.
And an inverted U shape.
Yeah. It suggests that a certain amount of family ownership can be beneficial, maybe due to commitment, long-term perspective. But too much can actually hinder growth beyond a certain point.
Huh. That's surprising. Why would too much family ownership be a barrier?
Well, the theory is that at intermediate levels, you get a nice balance. You get the family commitment, but also maybe the recognition you need to bring in professional management as you scale. However, the study also found that extensive family involvement on the board of directors had a negative impact on that size transition.
Okay, so on the board specifically.
Yes, that could be due to things like potential conflicts of interest, maybe a reluctance to embrace outside expertise, or even issues of nepotism. Interestingly, though, having a family member as the CEO, that was found to have a positive influence, possibly due to that long-term vision we mentioned, or a strong sense of stewardship for the family legacy.
So it's not family involvement per se that's the issue, but more about where and how that influence is felt. Ownership, good in moderation, family CEO, potentially good, but too much family on the board might cause friction. What else did they look at?
Well, the age of the firm showed a positive link with successful size transition, which kind of suggests that older companies, maybe with a longer track record, established ways of doing things, they might have a strategic advantage when it comes to scaling up. Interestingly, they found a negative link between profitability and size transition.
Negative, so being more profitable made it harder to grow bigger. That seems counterintuitive.
It does, and it's worth noting the research on that specific point is a bit mixed in the literature, so it's likely a more complex relationship that at first appears. But the overarching point here is that understanding these specific dynamics is really crucial for family firms, especially if they're looking to compete globally.
Right. Now, the other article on business growth takes a broader view. It looks at the triple bottom line economic, social, and environmental performance. In the context of what makes customers want to come back to coffee shops, what can that tell us about growth strategies more generally?
Yeah, this study explored what influences a customer's intention to reuse services, basically come back, to coffee shops. They looked at factors related to triple bottom line, price fairness, economic, hygiene, social, and eco-friendliness, environmental. And their findings indicated that both price fairness, customers feeling they're getting good value and hygiene standards had a positive impact on their likelihood of returning.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the eco-friendliness?
Surprisingly, in this particular study, eco-friendliness didn't show a significant direct effect on reuse intention.
Really? That is interesting, especially today. So, in this context at least, the economic and social aspects seem stronger drivers of loyalty than environmental concerns.
That's what this research implies, yeah. At least for customer reuse intention in the American coffee shop market they studied, it kind of highlights that while sustainability is increasingly important, maybe those more immediate factors like perceived value and just basic cleanliness are also critical for driving repeat business and ultimately supporting growth.
Good point. Okay, finally, let's touch on how businesses are evolving what they actually offer customers. We have a couple of articles discussing product service systems or PSS design. What exactly are these PSS things and why are they gaining traction?
So product service systems, PSS, they represent a shift. Instead of just selling a tangible product, businesses offer integrated solutions. They combine both products and services to create, hopefully, greater value for customers and other stakeholders. It's a growing area of interest, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, looking for innovative ways to stand out.
What are some of the key things SMEs need to think about when they're designing these integrated PSS offerings? It sounds complex.
It can be. The research points to 5 key themes for SMEs specifically. First, the motives, why are they doing it? Second, the challenges they face. Third, the unique characteristics of SMEs themselves, like limited resources or maybe strong customer relationships. Fourth, the methods they use for PSS design. And fifth, the increasing role of digitalization in these systems. And it's important to note that those SME characteristics, they really sit at the center, influencing all the other themes.
So a small, maybe family-run manufacturing company is likely to approach designing a PSS very differently than, say, a bigger tech startup.
Exactly. The research also points out we still have kind of a limited understanding of how different types of SMEs, like tiny micro businesses versus established family firms, actually engage in PSS design. And also, a lot of the existing research seems concentrated in European countries, so we could use broader global perspectives too.
Okay. One of the articles includes a case study of a company called Railco and their experience with PSS design. What did we learn from that specific example?
Yeah, the Railco case study showed a pretty structured, multi-stage process for PSS design. Things like clearly defining the project, doing thorough analysis, generating ideas, developing detailed designs, prototyping, implementing, and then evaluating performance. One key insight was interesting. While Railco's existing experience helped them design more traditional, maintenance-focused PSS offerings quite effectively, they found that a more formal, structured design process was really essential when they started venturing into less traditional, more innovative types of integrated solutions.
Ah, so relying on experience only goes so far.
Right. It really emphasizes the importance of having a deliberate methodology, especially when you're trying something new and complex.
So past experience is valuable, sure, but for truly innovative PSS offerings, a more systematic approach is often needed.
That's a key takeaway, I think. While informal methods might work fine for familiar service types, a well-defined process significantly increases the chances of successfully delivering superior value, especially with more complex and novel PSS offerings.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive. We've covered a huge range of interconnected topics, all critical for anyone involved in entrepreneurship or business growth. Everything from that fundamental legal structure to developing skills, connecting with customers, navigating growth, and embracing innovation through new service models. It's a lot.
Indeed, and it's so clear they don't exist in isolation, right? The legal foundation impacts funding and risk, which impacts growth. Cultivating those entrepreneurial competencies is vital for marketing, for scaling, and ultimately understanding customers and exploring innovative models like PSS, well, that's crucial for long-term success. It all links together.
So for you, our listener, what does all this mean? I guess it highlights that building and scaling a business is just.
Well, it's dynamic, it's multifaceted, demands careful thought about a really wide array of factors. It's not enough to just have a great idea. You need that robust foundation. You need to keep developing skills, connect meaningfully with customers, and be ready to adapt and innovate. Yeah, and this raises a really important question for you to maybe ponder. Out of all these interconnected elements we've touched on today, the legal stuff, skill development, customer engagement, growth strategies, service innovation, which one resonates most strongly with your current interests, or maybe the specific challenges you're facing right now? Perhaps focusing on gaining a deeper understanding of that particular area could unlock some new insights, new possibilities for your own journey.
Absolutely. A great thought to end on. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring these concepts, maybe dive deeper into the areas that sparked your curiosity today. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.